Mysterious Chapter 5. Religion, Magic and Madness. A man steps forward from the crowd. He's young, maybe 19 or 20, and his face is set with grim determination. In his hands he holds a sword. "I have sworn an oath to Odin," he declares loudly so all can hear. "I will go raiding this season, and I will not return until I have killed 10 men in battle. I swear this on my honor, on my family's name, and on the All-Father himself." The crowd murmurs approvingly. This is a serious oath, binding not just in the social sense but in a spiritual one. To break such an oath is to invite the wrath of the gods themselves. Thran steps forward and takes the young man's sword. He cuts his own palm, letting blood drip onto the blade, then cuts the young man's palm and mingles their blood on the steel. "Odin hears your oath," Thran intones. "The All-Father witnesses your pledge. May he grant you strength in battle and glory in death. But know this, if you fail, if you break this oath, you will be cursed. Your luck will turn, your weapons will fail, and when you die, you will wander as a draga, neither living nor dead, forever denied the halls of the gods." The young man doesn't flinch. "I understand. I will fulfill my oath or die trying." This is the power of Viking religion. It's not just about belief. It's about oaths, about honor, about binding yourself to the gods through promises that you must keep or face supernatural consequences. As the festival finally winds down and people begin the journey back to their settlements, you're left with a profound understanding of how deeply religion permeates Viking life. These aren't people who go to church on Sunday and then forget about God the rest of the week. Their gods are present in every aspect of life. Every decision, every action carries spiritual weight. Before a voyage, you sacrifice to Njord and Thor. Before battle, to Odin and Tyr. Before planting, to Freya. When seeking love, to Freya. The gods are constantly invoked, constantly honored, constantly feared. And it's not just the major gods. Vikings believe in a whole universe of supernatural beings, land spirits called landvatir, that inhabit specific locations, elves, both light and dark, dwarves who live underground and forge magical items, giants who threaten the cosmic order, the dead who don't always stay peacefully in their graves. Back at your settlement, daily life is filled with small superstitious practices that reflect this worldview. Before entering a new house, you're supposed to look around carefully and speak a greeting to any spirits that might dwell there. Offending a house spirit can bring bad luck. When you pass a particular large stone on the path to the fishing grounds, you're supposed to leave a small offering, a bit of food, a flower, a pretty pebble. This stone is home to a landvat, and fishermen who ignore it often have poor catches. Pregnant women wear protective amulets and avoid certain places believed to be inhabited by malevolent spirits that might harm the unborn child. Sailors never whistle on board a ship. It might summon unfavorable winds or attract the attention of sea monsters. If you have a particularly vivid dream, it's not just a dream. It might be a visit from a spirit, a message from the gods, or even your fylgja, your guardian spirit, trying to warn you of danger. You witness this belief in action when a warrior named Stykar wakes up screaming one morning. "I dreamed of a white bear," he says, his face pale. "It came into the longhouse and mauled me. I felt its teeth in my throat. This is a warning. I'm going to die soon." No one dismisses this as just a nightmare. Dream interpretation is taken very seriously. The Gothi is consulted. Protective rituals are performed. Stykar is advised to stay close to home, avoid risks, and make offerings to his personal guardian spirits. For the next week, Stykar is visibly nervous, jumping at shadows, constantly looking over his shoulder. The dream has genuinely terrified him, because he believes it's a prophecy. Ultimately, nothing happens to him, but that doesn't diminish his belief. Perhaps the protective rituals worked, perhaps the gods showed mercy, perhaps his fate was altered by his caution. There's always an explanation that preserves the belief system. You also learn about the runes, the Viking alphabet that's also believed to have magical properties. The runes aren't just letters. Each one has a name and represents a concept. Fehu represents cattle and wealth. Uruz represents strength and wild oxen. Thurisaz represents giants and chaos, and so on. A skilled rune master can carve these symbols in specific combinations to create magical effects, or so they believe. You watch as a man commissions a runic inscription for his new sword. The rune master, a specialist who travels from settlement to settlement, carefully carves symbols into the blade while chanting, "These runes will make your blade strong," he explains. "They will never let it break in battle. They will guide your strikes true. They will make your enemies fear you." The warrior pays handsomely for this service. Whether the runes actually do anything is impossible to say, but the psychological effect is real. The warrior believes his sword is now magically enhanced, which makes him fight with more confidence. Runes are also used for more sinister purposes. You hear whispered stories of cursing runes, symbols carved in secret to bring harm to enemies. A man's cattle all die mysteriously. Someone finds runes carved on the gatepost of his barn. The runes are a curse, everyone agrees. But who carved them? That becomes the question that tears the community apart with suspicions and accusations. Another aspect of Viking spirituality that disturbs you is their treatment of the dead. When an important person dies, they're not simply buried. They're sent off with elaborate rituals designed to ensure they reach the afterlife properly equipped. An old warrior named Armbjorn dies in his sleep. He's maybe 55, ancient by Viking standards, and he's lived a full life of raiding, fighting, and fathering children. His body is prepared for burial. He's dressed in his finest clothes. His weapons are placed with him: sword, axe, spear, shield. Food and drink are added to the grave goods. Even a dog is killed and placed with him to accompany him to the afterlife. But here's where it gets really disturbing. Armbjorn was wealthy enough to own several thralls. One of them, a young woman who served as his concubine, is selected to accompany him to the afterlife. She's not given a choice. You watch in horror as she's told what will happen. She's going to be killed and placed in the burial mound with Armbjorn. This is supposedly an honor, but she's clearly terrified. The night before the burial, she's given copious amounts of mead and possibly other substances. By the time of the actual ceremony, she's barely conscious, drugged into compliance. The burial takes place in a ship. Armbjorn's longship is dragged inland and placed in a specially dug trench. His body is laid in the ship, surrounded by his grave goods. Then the thrall woman is brought forward. What happens next is a blur of ritual violence that you can barely watch. She's killed, her body placed in the ship with her former master. Then the entire ship is covered with earth, creating a burial mound that will stand for centuries. Everyone treats this as normal, proper, even beautiful. They've sent Armbjorn off in style, with everything he needs for the afterlife, including a companion to serve him. But all you can see is murder. A woman killed for no reason except to satisfy the burial customs of her owner. Later you express your discomfort to Olaf, who just shrugs. She was a thrall, he says, as if that explains everything. She belonged to Armbjorn in life. Why shouldn't she serve him in death? Besides, she'll live in luxury in the afterlife, better than her life here was. You want to argue, but what's the point? To them this is completely logical. The beliefs about the afterlife itself are complex and sometimes contradictory. Warriors who die in battle might go to Valhalla, Odin's hall, where they fight all day and feast all night, preparing for Ragnarok, the final battle. Or they might go to Folkvang, Freya's hall, which is similar but ruled by the goddess of love and war. People who die of disease or old age go to hell, which isn't quite hell as Christians understand it, but rather a grey, cold, somewhat dreary realm ruled by the goddess Hel. It's not punishment so much as it's just less glorious. Some people believe that family members who die might live on in mountains or hills, where their descendants can visit them and ask for advice or blessings. Others believe in reincarnation, that you might be reborn into your own family line. It's not uncommon for a child to be given the name of a recently deceased relative with the belief that some aspect of that person's spirit has returned. And then there are the Draga, the undead. Vikings believed that some dead people, particularly those who were greedy, cruel, or died with unfinished business, don't rest peacefully. They rise from their graves as Draga, super-strong zombies that terrorize the living. Stories of Draga are common. A man will claim he saw old Sigurd walking near his burial mound at night, even though Sigurd's been dead for 2 years. Cattle will die mysteriously near a gravesite, and everyone will blame the Draga of whoever is buried there. You hear a story about a particularly nasty Draga that had to be dealt with. The undead creature was killing livestock and even attacked several people. Finally, a group of warriors dug up the grave, found the body strangely preserved and swollen, cut off its head, drove a stake through its heart and burned it. Is any of this real? You don't know, but everyone believes it, and in a world without scientific explanations, these beliefs fill the gaps in understanding. One evening you're talking with an older woman named Astrid, who has a reputation for wisdom. Do you really believe all of this, you ask her? The gods, the spirits, the magic. She looks at you like you're an idiot. Of course I believe it. I've seen it. When I was a girl, my mother performed Sidra and called down a spirit that spoke through her in a man's voice. I've seen charms that healed wounds that should have killed. I've seen curses work. I've seen the results of ignoring the land spirits. But how do you know those things were really supernatural? Maybe the person would have healed anyway. Maybe. She cuts you off. You think too much like a Christian. Christians believe in only one God and think everything else is false. We know better. The world is full of powers and spirits. They're as real as the ground under your feet. You realize there's no arguing with this. For Vikings, their religious beliefs aren't faith, they're knowledge. They've experienced these things, or they know people who have. The supernatural is woven so thoroughly into their worldview that separating it out is impossible. As autumn deepens, and you prepare for winter, you participate in more small rituals and superstitious practices. When the first snow falls, offerings are left outside for the spirits of winter, asking them to be merciful and not make the season too harsh. When a child falls ill with fever, a vulva is called to perform healing magic. She chants, burns herbs, draws runes on the child's skin with ash, and gives the mother a protective amulet to tie around the child's neck. Does it work? The child recovers, but that could be natural healing, or could it? When a man's fishing net keeps tearing, he's convinced someone has cursed him. He pays a Siddha Madra to perform a counter-curse. The net problems stop. Coincidence or magic? You're learning that in the Viking world, everything has spiritual significance. There are no random accidents, no mere coincidences. If something goes wrong, it's because you've offended a spirit, or someone has cursed you, or the gods are displeased, or your fate is manifesting. This worldview has profound psychological effects. On one hand, it can be paralyzing. If you believe malevolent spirits or curses are behind every misfortune, you might spend more time on protective rituals than on practical solutions. On the other hand, it provides explanations for the inexplicable. Why did that child die? Why did the crops fail? Why did the ship sink? In a world without science, supernatural explanations fill the terrifying void of not knowing, and it provides a sense of control. You might not be able to control the weather or disease, but you can make offerings to the right spirits.
You can wear protective amulets. You can hire a revolver to curse your enemies. Even if these things don't actually work, the act of doing them makes people feel less helpless. One night, you're awakened by screaming. You rush outside with others to find a thrall woman pointing at the sky. The dead are riding, she shrieks. The wild hunt. We're all doomed. You look up. The northern lights are particularly spectacular tonight. Waves of green and purple light dancing across the sky. People are genuinely frightened. The northern lights are believed to be the Valkyries riding across the sky, collecting the souls of the dead to bring to Valhalla. Seeing them so vividly is an omen of war or death. An old man starts praying to Odin, asking for protection. Others hurry to make offerings. Children are pulled inside. Everyone is on edge. By morning the lights have faded, and life returns to normal. But the incident stays with people. Several men take it as a sign that they should go raiding next season. The Valkyries are hungry, and glorious deaths await. This is how Vikings live. Every natural phenomenon has supernatural significance. The world is alive with spirits, gods and magic. Nothing happens without meaning, and underlying it all is that core belief in fate. Your destiny is woven by the Norns. You can't escape it. All you can do is face it with courage and try to die well. This fatalism, combined with a belief in a glorious afterlife for warriors, makes Vikings incredibly dangerous opponents. They don't fear death the way others might. They court it, even, seeking glorious deaths that will earn them eternal fame and a place in Valhalla. As winter approaches and the raiding season ends, people settle into the long dark months ahead. But even in winter, the gods and spirits are present. Offerings are made, rituals are observed, oaths are sworn, and you realize that understanding Viking religion isn't just about learning their mythology. It's about understanding how they see reality itself. For them, the supernatural isn't separate from the natural. It's all one interconnected whole, and you ignore the spiritual dimension at your peril. The gods are real, the spirits are real, magic is real, and how you honor them determines not just your success in this life, but your fate in the next. This is Viking spirituality. Complex, contradictory, pragmatic, and deadly serious. And now, as winter closes in, you're about to learn about another aspect of Viking culture that's even more terrifying than their gods. You're about to meet the berserkers,